Hello, hello. If you're talking, I can't hear you. Hey,
Hey, I was just
oh,
trying to figure things out.
I hear you. It seems like Zoom updates half the time too, and I didn't realize how short she cut my hair until I started to do it this morning.
Cute.
Thank you. I just decided, I'm just putting it behind my ears today because I'm going to put my I should have grabbed it for our meeting because you're opening presents. Hold on. Once I commit, though, it's on. My Cindy Lou Who hat.
Oh my goodness.
Wasn't that fun?
That is darling.
My best friend in Kansas City and I got him one year at a store because we used to shop together every year. And it was an easy way to find each other in the aisles because she had two girls and I had a boy. So we were always in different aisles.
That's cute. So cute.
There's Chantel. I was so hoping you'd have your present by today. Ugh.
I know. Yeah, that's okay. I will excitingly watch you all open your present.
Well, and you'll know what it's going to be because you all got the same thing, just slightly different.
Oh.
So I know I've got my Santa hat on, my Cindy.
That's super
I
fun.
don't think it's going to stay on though because it's hot. And I told Shauna once I commit, it's done. What are you eating, Miss Chantel?
Cottage cheese and Italian waffle things.
Nice. I miss being able to have cottage cheese. Um, how are you doing, both of you, after yesterday's coaching?
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Some clarity?
Yeah, some clarity. I got like half of my homework done. Felt
Good,
good.
good. Way to
Mm-hmm.
go.
Yeah, we also had a really interesting meeting with our son,
Oh, yeah.
which I think like 6 months ago would have been a devastating thing. And we did a restorative justice meeting together. So we sat down as a family because he had had a meltdown and it wasn't good. But it would have turned out to be like a really bad thing where he might have run away. And in this case here, we went through the agenda items together and it was we actually had a conversation. It was,
Wow.
yeah, it was a big deal.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was like the thing that stood out to me the most yesterday. It was like, wow, we can talk about hard things in
Yeah.
creative ways, and it doesn't have to like end in this dramatic kind of like scary
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, yay. Yay, yay.
Pretty good.
I'm so happy to hear that. So good, good.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, Shreen. Good morning, Joni. Are you in your hot tub again?
Mm.
You're on mute. Okay.
No, I'm in my time machine.
Oh, your car. Oh, that's funny. Well, good morning, Joni. I know you don't have a box, but and Chantel is patiently waiting on hers, but I thought we would take a moment this morning and Chantel and Joni and I guess will watch Shireen and Shauna open their box. And then Chantel, I'll explain what yours is as well. So go for it.
Do you
Take it
want
away.
us to open our boxes?
I do. And I'm really sorry, Chantel, because I tried. I mailed it so early. And if I would have mailed it just like 2 weeks earlier, you would have probably gotten it.
Oh,
Or
who
if you left
knew? Who
my
knew?
So
shit
can we
together,
can we
given it.
open now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
It's the same thing, but slightly different.
You know what's funny? I carry my new slippers in my purse now. Like they, because they're so comfy even when I go places.
I know I'm getting,
Apparently, I'm not a good opener.
okay,
I took-
don't pull anything out yet, Shireen. We got to wait for Shauna.
I just
Sorry.
envelope. I was only pulling an envelope out.
Don't be sorry. Shireen's been like waiting to open this thing.
I'm not a cliffhanger person. I'm like, must hide this box because it was sitting on my kitchen island for a while. And I'm like, no can do.
And I'm known to put a lot of tape.
Yeah, there's serious tape on this girl. Okay. All right. It's open.
Okay. Now you guys can open and show off what you got. So those are from
Super
the
cute.
Can you guys? Oh, I was gonna say, can someone narrate for me?
Yes, it's a little purse, and Shireen's is a turquoise blue because that's her favorite color, and Shauna's is like a periwinkle, and Chantel, yours is orange
Ooh.
because that's your color.
Oh,
I don't
thank
have
you.
any.
Yeah, good. That's some little
My
cards,
first set, my first deck.
some Spirit Junkie cards, and then there's a really cool
Perfect.
book in there.
And is this all the answers I need?
E squared, well, it starts you out, and basically we can start to go through it. We'll look at it after the first of the year, but they are little exercises such as my good friend Wendy, some of you have talked to her, has done this book, and one of the exercises was to pick something random that you would see, because it's like little tests to prove to you that the universal laws are real, right? That energy and manifestation is real, and that's why it's E squared. And she picked a turquoise flamingo. Within 24 hours she was going to see a turquoise flamingo. So in 24 hours she didn't see a flamingo, but then she realized she never left her house, right? So part of it was giving yourself the opportunity to be open to seeing those things. Now somebody could have showed up at her house with a turquoise flamingo. So she did it one more day. They went to Target and there was an entire bin, you know, like those balls that are in bins of stuffed animals. And there was one turquoise flamingo.
Oh my
A
goodness.
bunch. So there's some really cute exercises in there, and it's a fun book, but it also has a point. And you know, like the first exercise was to pick a vehicle, I think it was a color of vehicle that you would see, and it kind of proves that. I forget what it's called. I think we talked about it before and somebody gave me the name and I always
Your
forget.
reticular activator.
Thank you. Your reticular activator. And so I said I wanted to see a green vehicle. I can't tell you how many cars, trucks, bicycles,
Everything was green.
motorcycles, like skateboards, like people that had green vehicles in just even an hour, right? It was really crazy. So those are kind of the exercises in the book. And then the purse, if you open it,
Is
I
so
will tell
soft.
you, they are so soft and they smell so good. There's a strap in there that you can put on.
Yeah,
that
I saw the little
body.
hooks.
And on the inside, there's like a couple of zippered areas. And so I took out the paper because I had these stuffed in my backpack. And they took up too much room with the paper. So so if you put some stuff in it, it may be, you know, kind of flat, but if you put some stuff in it, it will expand. And the leather just is
So they're Italian leather purses.
yes.
Oh,
Beautiful.
It's super cute. Like they're just a perfect little size, maybe like almost a square, like 8 inches by 8 inches.
Yeah.
And
They hold a lot of stuff.
1, 2, 3, 4
I'm at a
compartments so you can
stoplight.
organize.
Oh, here, hold it up. She's at a stoplight.
No, I was just taking a picture.
I already thought, yeah.
Oh, okay. And I tried to get close
Chantel.
to colors that you liked, but you know, when you're standing in a leather store, they don't always have the exact colors that people chose. So, but Chantel, I can't wait for you. I wanted that orange one so bad, and there was only one. I was like, it is so cool. But anyway, and it's not burnt orange. It's like a bright orange, not like construction worker orange, but it's like orange.
I can't wait.
Tangerine. You should call it tangerine.
Tangerine. There you go,
Mhm.
Shireen. That's much better. That's much better.
Can I
So-
tell you an example? I haven't read the E2 book yet, but one of the most bizarre things that happened to me, I was doing some clearing for one of my properties and doing some work in the yard that had been recommended. And then part of it was putting these stones, like big stones, in the corner by a transformer, a power transformer. And so I'd done all the work, but I could not move these stones because they're like big. And I'm standing in the yard and I'm like, I just need a dolly. Like, I have to get a dolly. So I was getting ready to go home and go get our dolly. And then I hear this like this weird little noise off to the side. It's a homeless man walking on the sidewalk with a dolly. And I was like, oh my God, would you be willing to help? And he's like, yes. And so
Yeah,
he
that's
came,
so awesome.
and then he was very pleasant, but not maybe all present, or maybe extraordinarily present. I don't know. And then I wrote down that he asked me if I knew this musician. He was like, they're telling me to ask you if you know, and he gave this name of a musician in Louisiana. And so I got to find that name again, because I looked it up at the time and I didn't know the musician, but I was like, that's so bizarre or awesome, you know.
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes to the point. Oh, this is a perfect little segue that I'm going to jump into here for a second about the law of attraction, right? Where what it says is that we attract, and I'm kind of reading, so I'm sorry if I'm not looking straight at you, but we attract and are magnetized to things that are vibrating at the same frequency. This includes, but it's not limited to, ideas, opportunities, people, circumstances, thoughts, feelings, and material items. And part of this is around supply and demand. And I wish I had my coffee mug that Joni gave me for Christmas a couple years ago, because it says, the universe provides the how, right? And so when you think about the law of attraction, one of the themes is around supply and demand. Because once we have that desire, now the key is uncovering, and we started to talk a little bit about some of that yesterday, uncovering those double binds, meaning that we want something, but there's something deeper in our subconscious that we want more, that's stopping us from doing that, right? And so once we understand the desire and we work through some of those binds, when we have the desire and the expectation. So have I told you the story about the rain pots?
Yeah.
Where like you have to
That's why I
expect.
got a new mailbox for my IRS check.
There you go.
And
There
I
you go.
open it up each day to my check
Nice.
fall
Nice.
in there.
So once the desire and the expectation are combined, the way and the means to materialize your desire will appear. But what we have to do is then trust our thoughts, our intuition, that when those inspired actions come, that they are truly inspired, that move us forward into what it is that we're attracting. So the universe, God, source, or spirit is our supply, and the supply is always available. We have to be conscious of our desire. So that's that uncovering if we have binds, right? Like what that desire is. And I think I've told you the story about starting my own business and having that desire and not understanding why I was having such a hard time stepping in to want to do this full time. And so, pardon? Oh, once you're conscious of your desire and what to expect, nature then knows no time and always responds in the present, in the now. So that's kind of that whole E2 book too, right? Like when we say that we desire to see green vehicles, our reticular activator takes over. I'm re-saying that so I remember that because I always forget it. The reticular activator is stimulated and we see it. So once we have what the true desire is and we expect it to happen. Have you seen there's a Raiders of the Lost Ark, I forget which one it is, where he goes into the cave, which I think isn't all of them, but he goes into the cave and he has to step, like there's these stone pillar things that like he's standing on one, but the other one doesn't appear until he takes the movement forward. And when he steps forward, the other pillar materializes. And then he takes the next step forward and it materializes. So that was a really good example, Shireen, of the law of attraction, right? Like put it out there that you wanted a dolly or some way and means to get that moved.
And then yeah, because I was like, there's no other way. Like, I mean, what are I mean, like, you can't think dolly and then a homeless man roam by with a dolly. I mean, that's even rare in itself that you would see a homeless man just roaming with a dolly, and for it to be right at the same moment. The other one that comes to mind too, was when I was in the Dominican, kind of in this same conversation. I swear that TV disappeared on the wall, but I had very clear intentions. Like, you are not going to waste this time. Like, you're not going to be like you're at home. You're not going to sit in front of the TV. You're not just going to waste a couple hours in the evening. And then it was really strong, like there was a lot of work we were doing in that Dominican retreat. And so I did walk in, I was like, oh, I just want candy, like just disconnect. And I just couldn't see the TV. I was like, oh, there's no TV here.
I know. I think that's really amazing.
But it was, and I don't even know how to explain it because I literally looked at that wall and my brain deleted the TV. Like it put just the color of the paint on the wall.
Yeah. So it has to do with desire and your interest, right? Like it says in here too, when you earnestly desire something, you set up a line of force that connects you with the invisible side of the desire. So the metaphysical was you didn't want to watch TV while you're there. You were wanting to be really present. So therefore
that was it. I wanted to be, I didn't want to have like a escape hatch.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. And now that Yellowstone's over, I can finally get back to life.
Your escape hatch is closed for you.
Yeah. And so the cool thing is both of those examples, and I'm going to ask Chantel and Joni and Shauna too, if you have some examples of, things like that that have happened in your life, because that's evidence for your evidence bank. Now, here's where we sometimes get in trouble though, is Shireen saying, oh, I need a dolly. And she just is so focused on going home to get her dolly, she doesn't see the homeless man with the dolly, and then goes home and says, oh, this manifestation stuff is bullshit. It doesn't work. Right. And so that's where we just have to be open to seeing. And sometimes what I find is that 90% of the time, plus or minus 10, the way is different than what I planned. Right? Like it doesn't happen according to plan. And it doesn't mean that you can't set up the structure. I don't mean it that way, right? Like you can set up the container, but if you're open and trusting your intuition, right? I was just having this conversation with my hairstylist last night because we both come from the same faith background. So I was using Christian verbiage. And she's very afraid to get on an airplane. And she's always so amazed at how much I travel. And I'm like, Shelly, it's really, or not Shelly. I don't know why I called her Shelly, but we'll call her Shelly for this, Sally. Sally.
You're protecting her identity.
Exactly. And we were talking about it in the fact that my best friend who's a counselor one time was talking to me and she said, I just don't get it. She goes, I have clients that have all sorts of different faith backgrounds, and people that profess to be Christian have the least amount of faith of anyone I know. This idea that you can get on an airplane and what you focus on gets bigger, right? Like your attention. So if she continues to focus on, she's going to be anxious. She's afraid that flying to Hawaii, they're going to fall into the middle of the ocean. Like all of that then creates all this anxiety versus look at all of the other trips you've been on. Look at all the trips I've been on. Look at all the trips all of your friends have been on, and everything's turned out fine. I have the same experience whenever I travel, and universe, I'm not jinxing this, so please don't do anything on this trip on tomorrow. But luggage doesn't get lost. I arrive on time. Something might be delayed by 10 minutes, but we make it up in the air. Like travel is just really smooth for me, but I expect it. But in the law of attraction, and if anybody has their stuff, it's on page 10, but in the law of attraction, it talks about attention. And we've talked about this too. in the fact that what we focus on gets larger. So whatever desire and interest we have, that draws our attention. And the more enthusiasm and the more honesty we have about our desires, the more intense our attention becomes. And this magnetizes the power of attraction. It's like a little magnet that isn't working very well. Like on my charger for my little face thing, I'm like, it's not sticking like it normally does, you know? Or like in your Mac computer, they have magnetized stuff in here. And so all the paper clips fly to it. It's like that same kind of concept, right? When you focus on something, then it just is attracted to you. So Shauna or Joni or Chantel, have you had any examples like what Shireen has talked about? Share with us for our evidence bank.
So I've had this happen like a lot, like enough that sometimes when I think something that's not good, I will say to myself, nope, that's not going to happen, because I've thought about something. So I grew up on a farm, and when I was probably I was probably a freshman in high school, we were supposed to go school shopping with my mom. And so our hired man was headed to town, and we were going to meet my mom at work, and we were in this crusty old grain truck that was like from the 50s, and we had this really steep hill to go down, and we were getting to the hill, and I was sitting in the middle, and my brother was on the edge by the door, and I thought, I wonder what would happen if the brakes went out on this truck ever, because it's really old and we have this big hill to go down. And you guys, the flipping brakes went out on the truck.
Oh,
Yeah, and stuff like that has happened enough that I just, like, if I think something bad ever, like if I think, gosh, I hope so and so doesn't get sick, I'm like, that's not going to happen, because it's happened enough that I want to, like,
you know your power.
negate it.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, Shauna, like, have you had somewhere then, like, you catch yourself going into the polarity of the opposite of what you really want? Have you seen where then because you are that powerful that you can do the opposite of that too?
So no, because I don't notice the good. I only notice the bad.
Now.
That has been my brain historically until, yeah, exactly. So no, I've always noticed oh, that's not good kind of things. Yeah. So
So I'm going to lovingly invite you over this next week and a half left in the, what is it, 2 weeks left in the,
God.
to see, like, listen to the intuition of things like that you see, because we all have this ability to have foresight, and that's part of this law of attraction, right? And to see those things that are good. And I understand what you mean, right? And the cool thing is you're making a conscious choice, and you have been for a few months. It's that whole watering hole example of the neuroplasticity, but you have been looking at things differently and trying to say, oh, what's the flip of this? And so try that over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And just try to really hone in and listen, right? Because that's the Holy Spirit saying, ooh, look at all this joy. Look at all this stuff, right? Yeah.
I had 1 week that I decided it was more for curiosity and then potentially fun, where it's like, I'm just going to give myself a week to be really into it. Like, whatever comes up, don't question it, just do it. So if like I was like, I should text so-and-so, I would just text them. And I didn't even know what I was supposed to, I'd just be thinking of you, or, what I was grateful for about them, or, it was just all sorts of just little things, but I just did them. And then the one strong thing that came was, and I didn't do it, was to be the voice of my company, like get on Instagram, introduce myself, do a video, and just connect with the people that follow us. And then I was like, oh, that one's too much. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was fun, just kind of for 7 days to just, if something popped up, just see where it led me.
Yeah. And Shireen, that's a really good practice that actually I would invite all of us into, right? I just had that too. I was watching the very last episode of Yellowstone, and how are all of you caught up that watch it?
I don't watch it, so you can spoil it.
Joni's not caught up, but she knows what happens to the dad, and it's the funeral. And I'm like, you know what? My dad's going to be 79 next year. And my two sisters and I all being home for Christmas at the same time is a few and far between kind of thing. And he was very disappointed that I wasn't staying over on Monday night to have Christmas. And keep in mind, I'm trying to really manifest not the political conversation that tends to happen all the time, because I have one sister that's really extreme and my dad's on the other side and his wife. And my dad and his wife are stupid and bring up stuff all the time. That's like a family rule, no politics, right? It has been for years. And after this last year, it'll be interesting. But needless to say, I changed my flight and I extended my car because I thought for me, it's the Holy Spirit, but the universe is telling me something and I need to honor that. And so it was very easy. Switched my flight, added 35,000 points to first class because I want to sleep on the way home because I'm getting up at the crack of dawn and taking a 6:30 flight on Christmas Eve to get home here by noon, 12:30. And so just I invite you to trust when you have those things. And Shireen, that happens to me all the time, where some of you have experienced this, where I'll reach out, even if we have a call the next day. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about you. And I always, like 99.9% of the time, I get, oh my gosh, I was so wanting to talk to you today. Or, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you reached out. Right. So listen to those. Those are easy. Well, I don't want to say easy. Those are little ways that you can start to tap into the collective energy, right? Because that's what that is. When you get these foresight, this intuitive hit, it's this energetic, and God, Holy Spirit, like it's that energy that is working. Chantel or Joni, have you had some examples?
I wanted to say, like, what was I gonna say? Oh, way to lean into your like, I get easy travel, right? Like, because that's part of the extending your trip. You want to make sure you're home. So, like, great job leaning, like reinforcing it, right? I think that's cool. I always get Rockstar parking, always, no matter where I'm at. I
I
can be
have
at like
started
some
using
kind of
that one.
random venue that there's no parking, and I'm like, I'm just gonna try the first row. I'll have a spot, like always. Don't get behind me in a grocery store line though, because you'll be there forever. Because that's where I get to learn how to do patience. So don't get in that line. But I feel like it happens to me all the time, and I think I should be more aware of it so I have more evidence, because I know it happens to me a lot, but I can't, like, in the moment right now, besides the parking, I can't like pull anything up, but I know it happens. Like, I know it does. I see it all the time, but the specifics elude me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The Rockstar parking, Joni, reminded me of so John's a goalie, so he has like a big goalie hockey bag. And every time we play ball hockey, he gets the spot 3 things from the door. Like, it doesn't matter what time it is, it doesn't matter how full like that spot opens up like as he arrives. And I'm like, what? How do you? He's like, I've got VIP parking, babe. I just don't know. So there you go. That's a cool example. I'll have to let him know about that.
So he has to keep believing in it too. So don't let him ever lose the faith.
Yes, I know his VIP parking. He won't. Yes, and I love that. Shireen, I'm gonna try that for the rest of this week. That's inspiring.
And the key was don't question it. Just
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the opposite of that was always believe. Like, always believe and trust your that intuitive hit.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, like, I also have a lot of examples that are not coming to me. However, I do have one where, recently I've been doing a lot of the Energy of Money book, and I would say, like, in the last 6 months at least, I have found a dime every day somewhere. And
oh my goodness.
I know I told I said to the university, I'd love to make some more money, and I just wasn't specific enough. So they were like, here you go, my friend, a dime a day.
Hey, a dime a day. Let's take that by 365, right? That's like
$2. No, I'm just kidding.
So I laugh because it's like a joke and also kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You made me think of, I saw something last night that I thought was really cool that somebody was doing for a savings thing, and they had these like circles that had all these numbers in it. And I don't know how they did it. Obviously, it was something people were selling, and then it had almost like these baseball card inserts that were there that had the number in it. And so like if it was a 10, you put a $10 bill in. If it was 35, you put $35 in the pocket. And at the end of the year, there was like $6,500 in there, right? But it made it chunkable, which I think is really important too when you think about your goals for 2025 and beyond, like chunking things that make it realistic, because then you can start to go into overwhelm because you start to go down those well-worn paths, right? Of the messages, like Chantel, you saying the, I don't know how, and like you could back down those paths, where if you chunk it and the more successes you have, then the easier it gets. Right. And then the trust comes. And there's certain things that like I just trust. Like for me, I have a deep, deep knowing that when it's my time, now I don't have to help and go jump off of a building and think that God's going to save me. But like I just know when it's my time, it's my time. If I'm in an airplane, if I'm in a boat, if I'm sitting at home or laying in bed, right? Like, so I don't worry about those things. And that's where with this law of attraction, when we have worry or doubt, that's where then the attraction starts to cut off because we don't expect it. And it's not like, don't think anything's wrong with you if you go down that route, because we are taught a lot of times not to expect, right? And that's the big mind shift that happens. That's what keeps me in business, right? Is these messages that we have. And so all of you, like watching the progression over the year and how your mind has shifted, it's just a beautiful thing, I have to say. Progress, not perfection. I only know of one perfect human, and he's not here anymore.
So
I was gonna, sorry, you can go straight.
It's okay. There's somebody I know, and I loved it. She was like, I'm just looking for better, because there's always like, what's the best? And she's Jenny of Jenny's Splendid Ice Cream. So she has a $100+ million company, and she goes, we're just looking for better.
Yeah. Instead of perfection. And I would say too, like for me, it's also about when I look for better, I look at what I currently have. Because if I want better, meaning if I want more peace, I want more joy, I have it somewhere, or I wouldn't do it. Right. And so, but there are times, right? Like in business that we want to get better. So we reach out to people that have had more experience than us or have done certain things in order to learn more from them. Right.
That's what I think that's what I was going to mention to you. It's just like the reminder that I am not being really diligent about collecting the evidence, but that's the piece of the more please too, and the gratitude, right? Like I also was reminded of like I call it pocket cash or whatever. Like I find money, I get so excited if I find $1 in my pants, and then I'm always like, that's one of my things that has been happening for me over the last couple of years of thinking that is like I probably find money in my clothes once a week, right? I don't know how it got there, I don't know, whatever. So I always think happy pocket full of money. It's a book I read. That's what I just think, that happy pocket full of money. And so then, but I'm super grateful for that, right? Like even when I get $1 and I see that it's happening more and more, so I feel like that gratitude piece can be very helpful for us, like you're saying, Denny.
Yeah. And that goes back to some other things, right? In the fact that not only the attention part of it, but this idea of the law of correspondence and the, like when we wake up. So I don't know about you all, but I would recommend to you and invite you when you first get up in the morning to give gratitude, right? Like before I pick up my phone and shut my alarm off, but before I pick up my phone and open it, I like lay there for a minute or two. Well, I hit snooze in case I fall back to sleep when I'm doing my little meditation for 9 minutes or whatever. But I'll kind of just lay there and be in this like gratitude and like the fact that I woke up and that I have this great day ahead of me and that I get to interact with people like you. And, and when you do that, it changes your vibration, right? Which then helps you attract, because the law of attraction, well, all of these laws intertwine, right? But because we talked about 3 of them already just in this, but the law of vibration is really tight with attraction, because whatever we're vibrating at, you know, when I think I've mentioned this before too, when people say, oh, I'm just waiting for the next shoe to drop. I'm like, well, peace out, because the shoe's going to drop. I don't want to see you get splatted, right? Because you're looking for that. You know, and my friend, my best friend has a acronym. I don't know why they all got into acronyms a while back, and she calls it SJGMW. Shit just goes my way if I choose it. Right? Meaning, like, even in a travel situation, if something's delayed by 30 minutes, I don't get out of whack. You know, another example is when I was flying back from Italy this year and I was in Paris. I had gone up and I just asked the lady, because they had switched my seat and I was in business class. So it doesn't lay flat, but it lays back a little bit. And I do that on purpose because ever since I shattered my tibia, my left leg swells a little bit more if I can't get it up a little bit. So when you're in the front seat, I can put my foot on the wall and kind of scrunch all the way down in the seat, because it does kind of lay back like a recliner. And then my leg is elevated. So I went up and I just said to her, hey, you know, I need to get back in that bulkhead. Is there a way to move me back into that? And I explained what happened, and I was super nice about it, because I'm like, you know what? She's just doing her job. So she's like, yeah, we'll move you back up there. So she moved me back up there. Then when I went to go in and handed her my ticket, it flipped another ticket out. And I'm like, oh, I hope it didn't go back to the other one. Well, they moved me up to Delta One. So I got the lay down, like, whole thing from Paris, right? So I really do believe in these laws. And hopefully, as you continue to step more and more into these, you will see and gather more evidence, right? I want to
Can
go
I share
back.
one more? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go, Joni.
And they're just kind of starting to drop in for me again. But I think everybody will like this one, and it's a good reminder. So our weather was super crappy today. Like, I had to wait for my husband to tractor out our driveway.
Ooh.
And about halfway to town, I was counting trees down. There were 17, right? Like, and we stopped counting because then we started talking about something else. But um, anyways, but I started doing this thing of, like, I never say I'm gonna be late anymore, right? Like, that was just the reminder, like what you said, if a half an hour, it always goes my way. But I started even being more specific. Like, if I was running late when I left my house, I'd be like, okay, I need to be at the school by 7:38 because that's the latest that my kids need to get there. I don't know how it fucking works. And I don't know where the time goes. And it's not like I'm intentionally even doing it anymore. And I will be there at 7:38. Even though it doesn't seem like it would be.
The math shouldn't work.
Yeah. So it's, you know, time is not linear. And so just put it out there for you guys, if a tool that you can, like, instead of thinking about how you're going to get there in time and trying to do the how, just be like, I need to be there at 7:38.
Yeah. Yeah, and that doesn't mean if you live 40 minutes away, you can leave at 7:37. Although quantum time would tell you differently, I suppose.
I mean, I haven't tried it, but that's why I said I was in my time machine earlier. Like, I don't know. So, yeah.
So I want to go back into the law of attraction and talk a little bit more about desire and interest. And so, because when we think about earnest desire, right? And so when you want something and it's not happening, then it's about asking the question and saying, what's behind this? Like, I don't love the question why, because to me that kind of puts defense right away, because it feels like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, right? But what's behind this? And when you think about this idea that you have an earnest desire, sometimes it takes 2 seconds to get to it. Sometimes it takes years. And that's that law of gestation, right? And so when you have this earnest desire, you set up, like I mentioned before, this line of force that connects you with the invisible side of the desire. So that metaphysical and physical. The desire means that the thing already, and I did quotes for those of you taking notes, that the thing already exists. If it's not in form, then if not in form, then in substance, meaning the desire then is the motivating power for calling forth into visible appearance or physical effect. So it may be in the metaphysical. Remember that from the Energy of Money? So
Will you say the last sentence again?
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
gonna blow up a
You
little
mind?
bit. No, I just stumbled because it's in really small print. So I need to, there we go. So desire means that the thing already exists. If it's not in form, then in substance. And desire is the motivating power for calling it forth into visible appearance or physical effect. So basically, desire means that the thing is already there. The desire wouldn't have been put on your heart if it wasn't already available to you. But it may not be in the physical form, but it might be the desire, the metaphysical. If you remember the house with the little path, right? And we go through the monkey mind piece of it. And so then we can call it forth into visible appearance or that physical effect. We see in life that which interests us the most. That's that idea of the green vehicles, right? That which interests us the most, and we pass blindly by that which is of little or no interest. So look for and be interested in those things that bring forth your desire. So it might even be just a little quick note to the universe to say, make me open to whatever I'm supposed to see based on the desire that I have. I do that every time I talk to you all. I do a little thing that says, make me open to whatever comes forth in this time that we're going to spend together, and help me to be open enough to see and hear what needs to chat about, right? Like what we need to talk about, what we need to dig into. So you can use that in a lot of different ways. Thoughts, questions, comments? I found this happens with people too. Like
Okay,
this.
I have,
Yeah, go for it.
so it goes back to the double bind for me. I will say this is some of the loop I get in. Like, oh, some version of I must be the problem. You know, I'm not clear about something, or I have some double bind, or, and then Chantel, if I could use you as an example from yesterday. So when she brought up like the fear of, oh, I won't be able to do it alone, or I won't know enough, or I don't have the knowledge. Is that what you're talking about? Is and then if she can work through that, which was kind of the exercise that you did yesterday, then that clears the binds?
Well, I find that really helps. So sometimes you're too close to it, so you do need someone to help guide you through it, right? But the questions that I had asked her was, what is she gaining from having a team, right? Because when you ask yourself, what am I gaining from doing the thing that I don't want to do, or not being able to move forward into something, what am I gaining? It's almost like the law of sacrifice, and you're in your shell, right? The hermit crab, you're in your smaller shell and wanting to go to the bigger shell, but you're waiting to be popped out because you become too big.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something you're gaining from staying there. It might be security, it might be feeling safe, it might be I'm getting attention, whatever the case would be. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be positive, right? Like sometimes I've been noticing with my grandson, he'll do things to get negative attention because he wants the attention.
That's my dog. Sorry.
And then it's about reinforcement. So we reinforce ourselves, and our brain is trying to keep us safe. And so we reinforce that sometimes, and that's that path to the watering hole. And so what happens is, in this case, asking yourself, what am I gaining from having a team, right? And it doesn't always have to be a negative thing in our life that we say, what am I gaining from? So I asked her, what are you gaining from having a team? So she listed out those 3 things like collaboration. I forget all of them offhand. I've got them in my notes. And because then there's a story wrapped around that, right? That's the only place that she can gain those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked, what are you how did I say that? What are you losing if you don't have a team? Or what are you gaining? I don't remember the exact question. Why am I screwing that up?
I think you asked them both in gain format.
Yes, I did ask them both in game format. Hold on. I don't know what I did with my notes from yesterday. But here we are. Asking those questions. Well, I lied. Asking those questions then allows you to get to the point of understanding what the lie or the truth is. So like her answer was that it helps her with passive income. And so then it was a matter of uncovering what's the truth and what's the lie.
Mm-hmm. She actually, she misunderstood your question. So she didn't answer it of what the passive income was. I mean, she has talked about it being passive income, but she thought you were asking what percentage of her income it was. I mean, not that it matters, but,
yeah. And then we got to the point too, because this is how your brain works. You add confusion because then we were originally talking about the clinicians and then she added her marketing and admin person in it because we went black and white, and that's just brain. That's just your brain doing those things, right? Because your brain's trying to keep you safe. So we go into this all or nothing kind of thinking versus what is then we got to the point where as she was talking about it, she realized it was costing her money. Doesn't mean that's bad if she's gaining a whole lot from it. But then when you compare what she felt like she was gaining,
to the reality.
Get those things elsewhere, and it doesn't have to cost, because there's opportunity costs and there's things, like I do stuff for free and I do stuff and I give away things. But the opportunity cost, I'm very mindful about what I do those things around. And it's not all about money, right? It's also about an energy exchange. I think that's part of what Joni was getting to in the WhatsApp, right? That sometimes like I do things like this women's connection group that I do in town. It's like $40 a month, right? And it takes probably 8 hours of my time total every month. And so basically I do that as a love project because it gives me energy. So there's a money exchange, there's an energy exchange, and it's not all about me. I love seeing all these women like make connections and friendships, and that's what lights me up. And so I don't remember what your question was. I'm sorry, Shireen.
It was like, how do you, I use Chantel as an example, but I feel like that's part of my thing is like, where are these double binds? How do you find them? Where do you see, because that's how it shows up to me is I say, blah, 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 but there's got to be another voice over here saying something different.
And that's where the questions of what would it take to get to right? Like, what would it take? And then if you start to find yourself resisting, then you can start to say, oh, this is interesting. What's the resistance about? And then you have
this, I think I told Debbie, but I did do a breathwork session a week ago, which I do like those. And I have this plantar wart on my foot that is extraordinarily painful. But in that breathwork session, there was this clarity of how something so tiny, because this is like smaller than the tip of a pen, like it's tiny, but it's wreaking havoc through my whole body because I'm altering everything, my gait, my walk, my like how I'm tensing my body. And so then it was like this metaphor for me of like self-doubt, like just this bit of self-doubt can seem so small, like, oh, well, of course I would have doubt that I could do that, but that's okay, and I'm like, oh no, I think it's permeating through everything and altering.
Can I add a piece about how to find the double binds?
Yes.
And then I want to go back to the wart. What did you say it was a plantar wart?
Yeah, and I have Louise Hay. Somebody else looked that up for me, but okay, go ahead.
So The thing that pops for, like, it's probably for all of us for identifying double bind, and that's where the coach comes in really handy, right? Or someone that can identify this for you. Like, you can give them permission to tell you when you're doing it. But we have to be in that place of observation. We cannot be in that place of judgment for our behavior, right? We have to be able to be like, I'm on Mars looking down at my thought processes. I'm on Mars looking at the way, my life is. Like, I want to heal this is for me, not for anyone. It's like, I want to heal my body, yet I'm choosing this kind of food, right? Like, I want to be more flexible, yet I'm not doing any yoga. Right. And so in some ways, those are choices, and it's like, I'm not doing yoga because I don't have, whatever. And those keep you in those spirals, right? Those aren't necessarily double binds, but those are just examples of being able to observe your actions and your thoughts without judgment so that you can actually see where the bind is, right? And so like the food bind would be like, but I get joy and pleasure from it, right? And then I'm like, it's like a double bind, right? Like, I want to feel better in my body and have joy and pleasure, but I want to eat food that gives me joy and pleasure that doesn't feed my body. Right.
And then
but I got to do it without shame and guilt and judgment.
And then the next step, thank you, Joni, for that, because, and keep going here, but in the next step is like the question I asked Chantel, what are you gaining from this? Joy and pleasure. Right. Okay, great. Where else can you find joy and pleasure?
Exactly.
And then I go to, but I really like that food. And I really, because I have worked on that with people, like, go take a walk. And I'm like, no, I freaking really like the ho-ho, like, so, but it is a choice, and so.
Well, and it's deeper than a choice. And that's where the subconscious, right? These double binds and these loyalty pacts of making our mother and father figures wrong or our spouses wrong is there's a deeper thing in our subconscious that, and sometimes it's we're punishing ourselves. It's like that negative attention is better than no attention kind of thing, right? Like, this is where I get joy and pleasure. And you're talking to someone that like has used food as a tool for a long time, right? And then it's about, okay, when I think about eating that ho-ho, for me, it used to be chocolate Pop-Tarts.
Which I don't even eat ho-hos, but
right.
I'm gluten-free right now, so it's hard to find ice cream. We could do ice cream.
Yeah. So ice cream, whatever it is, right? Like, and then if you do eat the ice cream, the question would be, am I really getting joy and pleasure out of this? Because usually what happens in the cycle, and this is everything, not just food. Usually what happens in that cycle is we get a momentary hit, but then we go into guilt and shame. Oh, I shouldn't have eaten this. Oh, blah, blah, blah. We jump on the scale the next day and we're up a pound because we're holding on to a little bit of water or whatever. And then we start to go and our vibration just keeps lowering. Here we go again, right? So there's some kind of form of punishment. There's some kind of form of we're gaining our own attention. We're, and some of these are messages that the diet culture, like, and I don't want to put blame and justify all of these things, but to help you not beat yourself up about it. But anytime you find yourself doing some kind of activity that you're like, what am I doing? Or that's out of alignment. And the more in alignment and aware you become of your deeper thoughts, the less tolerability you have for the things that are a burr under your saddle. Like I have a sign up that says simplify right across from me that my friend made for me when I lived in Kansas City. I have a magnet on my refrigerator. I have been wanting to simplify my life for a long time. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to clean out one bookshelf and I'm going to clean out my schedule so I have spaciousness and I'm going to do this. And up until there was a deeper hit about something and uncovering the fact that I didn't want a man in my life, so I wanted to fill up every space. And when I did have a man in my life, I wanted to fill up every space so he couldn't get to me emotionally, right? Like I was hiding behind it. Once I got to that deeper understanding, now I'm like, I want to clear stuff out. I want to be connected to people. Right. So there are real, and some of these take a long time to uncover. Others are really short, and it doesn't really, time is a weird thing. Right. So when I say long, I just mean like don't beat yourself up if it's not a light switch. Like I look at it, sometimes it's like a dimmer, right? And the light might be really dim, and then it goes up a little bit, and then it comes back down, and then it goes up a little bit, and then it comes back down. And then one day there's a flip, and you realize something about it, and it changes a behavior. But then, oh, something else happens, and the dimmer goes back down, right? And then it kind of goes back up a little bit, and then it goes back down, and then it hits the switch again. And then another part of what you're doing goes forward with that. So what is this thought tool?
It's called focus wheel. So it's like if we're trying to align our thoughts, right? So what you said reminded me of, like we can downward spiral our thought, we can upward spiral our thought, right? It's 17 seconds to a new thought. If you can hold one thought of higher vibration, that's 17 seconds to a higher vibration thought, right? And so this focus wheel, you can put your focus thing in there. Like I need, like you can say it however you want. Like I'm a powerful intuitive coach, right? And put it in the middle. I don't know why I use that, but that's what I said. And then your next 12 thoughts are all thoughts that support that, right? You just wait, it comes quicker sometimes, but you can wait 17 seconds. What's the next powerful thought? And then you can make yourself a wheel, right? So if you have something specific, like we're talking about the law of attraction and something specific that you're calling in for yourself, you can put it in that wheel, right? And then it's on your phone. And so you can just spin the wheel. And so you can, it's like that will help you stop what Debbie was talking about, that downward spiral of thoughts, and go to the next higher vibration thought.
Yeah, thank you. That's
I don't know, it just dropped in as fun. Like it's something fun to do because like I think that's part of like all of us doing all of this work. It's like we take it so serious, right? And we're really trying to be good students. But part of it is we got to bring fun back into the piece of that learning, because it will allow us to move into a different vibration, but see ourselves an observer too, like a kid.
Yeah. And Joni, you bring up something really important that I'm going to kind of drop and have you guys think about is a lot of times we do fall into this. We just want to be a good student. We want to do things right. Right. We want to do, I've seen that happen with people I'm coaching. I've seen that happen with when I've been coaching, right? Like I just want to be able to do the things right because I want the star on my paper. And once we kind of start to diminish that and really start to get into thinking about like, oh, and I just had something really pop for me, which I think that's why I struggle so much. Yeah, that's why I struggle so much sometimes when people are talking about the changes that they've made, admitting and saying, I was a part of that. Like, don't forget, like, I don't care if people say that I was a part of it, but my marketing person is like, you got to quit. Like, you got to remind them, right? Like, and so I just had something pop. So thank you for that. But yeah, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought because
you need to write? Need to make some notes?
No, I'll remember that. But yes. But I forgot what I was saying to you because that really landed for me. So thank you for that gift. I appreciate that. But it's
you were
about
talking about being the good student and getting the star on your page.
Thank you. Yeah. And so until we reach the point where we love ourselves enough to realize the things we're doing are for us and nobody else, not for the gold star, not for the achievement that we equate to love, right? Because there's so many things that we equate to love based on how we've been shown love. And it's not to blame our parents or those that have parented us. They've done the best they can with what they had, right? Maya Angelou says if they knew better, they would have done better. But it's what they've known. But we can be available or not available to certain things, right? We can make the choice to stop generational things. I don't know how many of you have ever seen The Shack. It's a movie. It's also a book. And Joni's laughing because everybody that comes to my house, I'm like, you have to watch this movie. There's a couple of them, that one and Biggest Little Farm, but I would recommend it to you. Now it does go into more of a Christian based background, but I just love how I just lost my train of thought again. You guys, what the hell?
I cannot spell today. Like literally words, just I can't even spell them today.
What was I talking about right before The Shack that I was going to drop to you guys?
doing it for yourself.
Thank you.
Nobody else.
Yeah.
And that we tie love, like we think that.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, that's what
That
it
we
was.
tie things to what love means, right? Without understanding and seeing the bigger picture. And so I highly recommend that you watch it. There's a lot of really good nuggets in it around judgment, around being perfection, around blaming our parents for certain things, and understanding and being able to stop some of those generational patterns. And so that would be your homework, is to rent that movie and watch it. I will tell you, it's a little disturbing because a little girl gets kidnapped in it. So just know that you might want a box of Kleenexes around. But
And
okay,
I like how you said go rent it. I'm like, who rents movies?
on Prime, like you can rent it overnight.
Oh, buy it. Yeah. Or I guess they do call it rent, but
Yeah, because you can rent it for like 48 hours or whatever. So okay, my friends, I will see you next what did we decide, Tuesday of next week? Where am I at here?
I probably won't be
following
on, so while you're looking, I'm just gonna say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
same to you,
too.
Jody.
You guys too. Yeah, we're not meeting next week, so I will see you on New Year's Eve. Or
Okay.
no,
Oh, yeah, we
maybe before
decided the New Year's Eve. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Love
Bye.
y'all. Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Bye, bye.
Okay, bye. I gotta get to the point where I can see y'all again. Okay, bye.